Welcome to Into the Desert, where we discuss relevant issues with respect and without finger-pointing. I'm Larissa Munz.
I'm Elgin Hushbeck.
We're still getting started here, so please like and subscribe, and if you'd like to continue the conversation, or if you have any questions, please comment down below. An infamous decision. Perhaps the most infamous decision by the Supreme Court was the decision in Dred Scott versus Sandford. It was very controversial from the moment it was issued, and one of the subjects repeatedly discussed in the Lincoln-Douglas debates. Today, it is roundly rejected and considered anti-canon, a mistake made by the court. Dred Scott was a slave owned by a U.S. Army surgeon, Dr. John Emerson. Dr. Emerson took Scott with him when serving in the free territories of what is now Minnesota, and then to the free state of Illinois. Scott eventually filed suit, claiming that while in the territory where slavery was prohibited, he had become a free man. After working its way through the courts, and with a change in ownership and a misspelling of the owner's name, Sandford instead of Sandford, the case eventually reached the Supreme Court as Dred Scott versus Sandford. The court ruled 7-2 against Scott. In the first part of the majority opinion, written by Chief Justice Robert Taney, the court ruled that Scott, as
one of the African race,
could not be a citizen. This was not a statement grounded in the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. This claim was something new. Taney used his racism rather than these documents to reach this decision. In his dissent, Justice Curtis rejected the claim the Constitution was a document for the white race, pointing out as a factual matter,
"It has already been shown that in 5 of the 13 original states, colored persons then possessed the elective franchise and were among those by whom the Constitution was ordained and established. If so, it is not true in point of fact that the Constitution was made exclusively by the white race, and that it was made exclusively for the white race is, in my opinion, not only an assumption not warranted by anything in the Constitution, but contradicted by its opening declaration that it was ordained and established by the people of the United States for themselves and their posterity."
This part of the ruling should have ended the case. This case was only in the Supreme Court because Scott and Sandford were citizens of different states. Yet, if Scott was not a citizen as Taney ruled, the court had no basis upon which to proceed. Yet, Taney took on the legislative role that Hamilton in the Federalist 81 had thought was,
in reality, a phantom.
So, proceed, Taney did. Taney ruled that Scott, as a slave, was mere property, and Congress had no power to restrict slavery. By doing so, Taney effectively invalidated the earlier compromises and created a constitutional right to slavery. As constitutional scholar Robert Bork summarized this opinion,
"How did Taney know that slave ownership was a constitutional right? Such a right is nowhere to be found in the Constitution. He knew it because he was passionately convinced that it must be a constitutional right."
The division between free and slave states would have disappeared if allowed to stand and follow to its logical conclusion. In fact, just what the court would do next came up as part of the Lincoln-Douglas debate. Taney tried to settle the slavery issue that had plagued the country since its founding and used his power on the Supreme Court to do so. Instead of settling the issue, he only exacerbated matters, leading to the Civil War 2 years later. Following the Civil War, the Dred Scott decision was invalidated with the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Thank you for listening to Into the Desert, exploring the wilderness of thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe and put your comments below. Remember, be civil. We want to foster discussion and not division.